What's up, carp freaks, and welcome to my brand new series, Ask Pictures. Every month I'm going to be answering your questions that have been put forward to me on my Instagram and Facebook page. I'll answer as many questions as I can in about the next 10-15 minutes that we'll have, and then every month we'll pick a winning question that will win some CC More goodies. Right then, let's get down to business. So we have here a question from r.l.fishing.uk1 on Instagram, and they ask, hello Mark, my question is, how long have you been fishing for and what got you into fishing? Hope you see this, your number one supporter. Well, thank you very much. Okay, how long have I been fishing for? I started fishing when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I don't remember exactly when. What got me into fishing? I really don't know. No one in my family fished. It wasn't like my dad took me and got me into fishing, or an uncle, anything like that. I think my fascination with fishing came from my fascination with nature. I used to like going out as a little kid, just being around wildlife, and from there it kind of developed into wanting to see more. And I don't know, I'd say there wasn't any defining moment, I don't think. It was just a transition from wildlife to being closer to nature and then fishing. It's a strange one, really. Okay, what other question have we got? We've got one here from _Tom Stratford Tuke _ again on Instagram. Favourite species other than carp? Yeah, I do like catching other species. I think being able to fish for a variety of species does make you a better all-round angler. And I'm sure a lot of you saw this winter that's just gone by. I absolutely loved fishing on the rivers for grayling. I think grayling are a beautiful species, very, very hard fighting fish. And the venues I was catching them from were absolutely stunning. Ended up going over the border into Scotland, and just that area of Scotland, it was just breathtakingly beautiful. And for me, there was nothing better than waking up on a really crisp, frosty morning, going down by the river with the steam rising off the river, and trying to catch a huge grayling. So I would probably say, yeah, grayling my favourite other species. Right, what other questions have we got? Let's have a look. Okay, another one on Instagram here from psycho_FPV. What's the best way to practice and get better at casting? You said it's so important. Let's have a look. Just want to know what you think is the best way without peeing off other anglers and ruining the swim. Keep it carpy. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, as a kid, I would just go casting in the garden and things like that. I remember even sort of like a 8, 9, 10-year-old putting buckets in the garden and then trying to cast leads in the buckets from various distances. So it's casting something that I've done ever since a really, really young age. I grew up fishing little tiny streams as a boy, really overgrown streams, and it all meant little underarm flicks trying to get either like a ledger and a worm or something underneath a bush, or flicking out spinners underneath trees. And from there I became a match angler. And you think how many times you're actually casting in a 5-hour match or a day's practicing for a match. And back then we weren't clipping up on the reels. The casts were landing tight to the far bank on a canal, and it was just done freestyle, if you like, not clipping up. So every cast had to be absolutely perfect. And like I say, you think how many times you would cast in a 5-hour match. So for me, it's just, I mean, it's like anything. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. But what I would say is, if you are wanting to perfect your casting, and it is so crucial, it is up there as being as important as watercraft. People always say watercraft is the most number one important factor when it comes to carp fishing, or any fishing for that matter, which it is. But joint number one would be casting, because after all, you could do all that hard work in trying to find the fish. You could spend hours trying to find fish, and if then your casting isn't up to scratch, all that hard work is for nothing. And when I mean about your casting, I'm not just talking about accuracy. yes, accuracy is important. I mean, if it takes you 3 casts to get a rig in place, then already them fish have either been spooked or are now very much on edge and are hard to catch, not going to be feeding us confidently. But I'm also talking about how that lead enters the water. By slowing it down so the lead isn't thundering in at full speed. You're trying to drop that rig, traveling very, very slow so it goes in with minimal disturbance. And the only way you're going to achieve that is just by practicing. So what I would say, it's worth maybe sacrificing a day's fishing, just going to a quiet lake, either a reservoir or whatever you've got local, and just cast it, spend the days practicing. And that's the best bit of advice I can give, really. It was quite a waffly answer, but I hope I got my point across. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, right, let's go for a question now on Facebook. One here from Mark Brotherston. And his question is, my local members water has recently banned the use of plastic baits. This also includes zig foam. With this in mind, what alternative bait would you recommend to use on a zig rig if the normal preferred zig foam is banned? Yeah, that's a really good question, because there are quite a lot of venues that ban the use of artificial baits or foam and such like. And in these situations, I would use the Northern Special mini pop-ups. They are a pot of 8mm pop-ups in a variety of different colours, including black, which is my favourite colour when fishing zigs. And those fish with a size 10 Fox zig and floater hook on a really short hair, little piece of silicone over the eye of the hook. That makes a really good zig hook bait. Okay, another question here off Facebook from Leon Taylor. What has to be your most memorable fishing session to date? Them kind of sessions where everything falls into place. Well, as it happens, Harry Charrington and I have just got back from filming In Pursuit of Carpiness 2. And we happen to have one of those sessions. It's probably my most memorable one to date because it's the most recent one to date. But it really was a case of where everything went right from start to finish. And it wasn't just the fishing itself which made it special, just the whole vibe, atmosphere of the trip. It was just one of the best weeks fishing of my life. So right now I would have to say, yeah, our most recent In Pursuit of Carpiness 2 filming session. Okay, I've got another question here on Facebook from Russell Gooch, and he asks, how do you keep the missus happy and keeping the family balance when spending so many nights away from home? Well, you have to realise, Russell, for me, this is my job. Although I am on the bank 4 or 5 days a week, this is my job, and I guess in a way it's similar to a lot of people that happen to work away, and that's what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm either doing tutorials, filming, magazine work, and when I am home, I suppose a lot of my time is spent working down my fishery, ready for that opening up next year. But it is my full-time job. My missus doesn't see it like that at all, of course. She does say, are you fishing next week? She would never say, are you working next week? And yeah, sometimes I kind of have to pinch myself and realise that fishing is my job. It's crazy, but yeah, I am in a very, very fortunate position. My own actual fishing time itself is very, very limited though. For example, if I'm doing a tutorial, I may cast the rods out on a night time and then they get reeled in again the next morning, and that's if I even fish at all. Because a lot of my sessions this year, a lot of tutorial sessions this year, in the 3 days I've been on the bank, my rods have stayed in the van. So I don't actually get to do a lot of fishing. I think last year, my own fishing time, apart from the grayling trips I did in the winter, my own fishing time was, I had 1 session on Spitfire pole, and that was the only time I went last year that wasn't for work, if you like, where I wasn't filming or doing something like that. Not that I'm moaning, I wouldn't swap it for any other job. I absolutely love doing what I'm doing, and I'm very, very lucky to be in this position. Okay, we've got another question here on Facebook. This one comes in from David James. I know this is a simple question, but I think it is one that will help many people out. If you arrive at a lake and there are no obvious signs of fish, what do you do then? Or look for to help you choose where to set up? And also, how long would it take before choosing a swim? Okay, it's a really good question, that, David. Okay, what I would say there is there are always signs somewhere. It's just whether or not you actually see them. In an ideal world, I'd look to arrive at a venue at first light if fishery rules permit. That is generally when the fish are at their most active. And if I wasn't to see signs, then I would keep walking around until I did see signs. I mean, if you only have a 12-hour session or a 24-hour session, I mean, I say only 12 or only 24 hours, that's a long time to be at a lake. And if, for example, it was a 24-hour session, I know in the past, Alex, who does the filming with me, he does get quite impatient because it isn't unusual for us to arrange to meet for filming at 9 a.m. and at 9 p.m. everything's still in the van. I haven't committed to a swim after 12 hours. And I won't until I am 100% sure this is the best place to be. It's all well and good finding a fish here and a fish there, but I want to make sure I'm in the best possible situation. Unless I'm targeting a very low stocked venue where there's just a handful of carp and I've seen the big one somewhere, then that's different. But yeah, just don't be in a rush to commit to a swim. I mean, if you have got 12 hours at a venue, it's better to walk around for 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever, and then spend 3, 4 hours in the right place than waste them 12 hours in the wrong place. So I hope that answered that question for you there, David. Right then, I think now we are going to get on to the winning question. And this one comes in on Instagram from Ian_Lex. Well done, Ian_Lex. You'll win some CC More goodies. And Ian asks, can you explain your decision-making process when choosing either your stiff hinge rig or your bottom bait rig? And the same for a helicopter or semi-fixed lead setup. What factors go into the choice made? Okay, well, what I would say is I would always fish a bottom bait where possible. That's where all the other loose feed items are. That's where the carp are feeding naturally. They're feeding with their mouths in a position to be eating all the free baits like that. So I don't want my hook bait to be 2 inches higher than where they're actually picking off all the other free baits. It's just too blatant, too obvious. The only time that I would use a pop-up is when there is a risk that the hook point can become masked in any way which will affect the hooking properties of the rig. So if there's debris, weed, leaves, twigs, things like that on the bottom, then I will fish a hinge stiff rig to keep that hook point clear of all that debris. So that's my thought process behind that. Always fish a bottom bait unless the hook point can become masked. And regarding the helicopter or leg clip setup, I'm not a fan of the helicopter rig. For me, there's just too much movement there. And I know a lot of people like to fish helicopters when fishing in silt or weed, but even in those circumstances, I would rather fish a lead clip setup. What I would do is increase the length of the hook link or the boom section. So if, for example, I was fishing in a weedy venue and that weed was 2 foot, 3 foot high even, then I would fish the boom section of that hinge stiff rig 2 or 3 feet and still fish it on a lead clip. And I'd still fish it with a heavyish lead, 4-ounce lead like I do normally. And that way the lead's going to obviously go down pretty much to the lake bed, depending on how dense the weed is. The supple boom section will go straight down through the weed, and then the hook bait will be sat on top of the weed with the hook point free to catch a hold. Now for me, when that fish then tightens up, so it picks up the hook bait, and as soon as it picks up that hook bait and moves its head, It's an instant contact to that heavy lead, which will further help with the hooking. Whereas if I was fishing a choddy, for me there's too much slack line. I think there's too much free movement, and when I have been fishing chod rigs in the past in these weedy situations, I've had indications that have come back on the alarm, on the bobbin, that I haven't been totally sure were liners, and I was convinced I was getting done. And when I'd switch over to fishing leg clip and a long boom section, I haven't received any of those indications anymore, and then I've gone on to catch fish. And I know from also seeing Rob Hughes doing his underwater diving, his underwater tests, he can go out and he can pick up a chod rig and swing it all over the place, and the indication back at the angler's end is virtually nil. So yeah, that's why for me I would always opt for the lead clip setup. So there you go. I hope that has helped answer that question. So thank you to everyone who wrote in with your questions on my Instagram and Facebook page. If your question wasn't read out this month, it doesn't mean to say it won't be next month. So please do write in again. We'll be asking for more questions very soon over on my social media pages. So look out for those posts, and I'll see you all next month.